In stats today, we came close to wrapping up this handout on, here it is, on Tuesday, we filled in this table by class period. So here were the results. In first period, there were 2 people for comedy, and a total of 24. In 8th period, there were these numbers with 28 total, giving us 52 people. So one thing we're about to work on is the marginal distribution, and that's exactly what it sounds like. It's the values in the margin here, and then there is another marginal distribution of movie genre over here. So when we do those, let me change colors so I can refer to the 2 marginal distributions. We have 7, 14, 11, 3, 13, and 1. And that should add up to 52. If it doesn't, then you know you messed up. Okay, now before we get into actually using the marginal distribution, at the bottom of the page you see that I asked you to make a bar chart based on your class period's data. So depending on which class period you're in, I'm going to do relative frequencies for each class period. So for first period, I'm going to go 2 divided by 24 to get this first value of 0833. And for the comedies for 8th period, I'm going to go 5 divided by 28. And I get 1786. So one more time, and then I'm going to pause it and fill it all in, is 6 divided by 24 gives us 0.25. All right. It's just going to appear in a second. I'm going to hit pause and fill it all in. All right, so there are all the relative frequencies by class period. So let's add that note here. Relative frequencies by class period. So what I ask you to do, as you can see on the bottom line there, is to make a bar chart, just a basic bar chart based on your class period. So if you're in first, make it based on those numbers. If you're in 8th, make it on those. I'm going to make one for first period. So I need to erase. Might hit pause and write all these down so you have something to go off of. And we're going to make a bar chart. So what you do is you first title it. So first period, preferred movie genre. At the bottom, we're going to put the movie genres. And if you write out the whole word, it's pretty, it takes up a lot of space. So I'm just going to abbreviate. We got comedies, action, horror, sci-fi, rom-com, dramas, musicals, and documentaries. On the left axis there, let me make a note. If not comparing groups, you can use frequency or relative frequency in a bar chart. So in this circumstance, we're not comparing, so I'm doing first period, we're not comparing with eighth period. So if you wanted to, you could make one based on frequency. I'm going to make it based on relative frequency because I feel like people need the most practice with that in terms of making a number scale. But you could make it based on just frequency, and the shape should actually look identical. Please do not automatically number up to 1.0. You only need to number to the highest occurring. So in my list here, it looks like 25 is the highest. I guess I'll number a little higher than that. I'm going to go by 5/100ths and go up to 30. So let's change colors. Comedy is 08. In a bar chart, the bars should not touch between categories. And then 0 and 0, so nothing. You don't have to make lines there, just showing I looked at it. And that's it for a bar chart. So the quiz for Thursday stops with that material right there. Now we're about to talk about marginal and conditional distributions. So let's rewind a little bit, go back to the table that we were looking at a second ago. So as I said a few minutes ago, this is the marginal distribution for movie genre. And this is the marginal for class period. It's getting a little messy on here. All right. So when we look at that table, we have two variables because there's two marginal distributions. There is movie genre and class period. So when it asks for the marginal distribution for movie genre, I'm just going to be very clear and I'm going to write all the categories down. Ran out of room there. And we have a total. I'm looking at the totals for each genre. We have a total of 7, 14, 11, 3, 3, 13, poor musicals, and 1. So what we need to do is divide by the total number of votes, total number of students, and we will have the marginal distribution. So for comedies, I got 1346. For action, 2692. horror 2115, and sci-fi 0577. 0577. Dramas 25 0.0192. And they should all add up to 1.0. They didn't ask us to graph it, so you can just list them out like that. If they ask you to discuss it, I'd talk about the highest occurring with action and the lowest occurring with music, but I mean, it's not all that interesting. It gets interesting on this next part with comparative. So down here, we need to make a comparative bar chart based on those relative frequencies. So whenever it says on your paper, compare movie genre by class period, I need to look at those red relative frequencies and make my bar chart. So I'm going to draw a big graph. I'm going to call this movie genres by class period. I'm going to label all the movie genres down below. So we had comedy, action, horror, sci-fi, rom-com, drama, musical, and documentary. You need to look at all the relative frequencies and pick the highest, or find the highest one. Looks like it was action for 8th period up to 28. I think we can use the same scaling. We can go by 5s up to 30. These are relative frequencies. All right, for this, the correct way to do it is to make the bars touch within each category. So I'll have a bar for 1st and a bar for 8th, and then there will be a gap between categories. So comedy, let me change colors, is 08 and 25, or sorry, and 17. 25 and 28. '25 and 17. '08 and 03. '08 and 03. '25 and 25. And a 0, and then a Sol 03. It still doesn't tell me exactly what's going on, so let's do a little legend. 1st and 8th, and let's shade in the 8th period bars. And then finally we're done. I think that's as far as we got in class today. Now it looks easier to read. All right, hope that made sense. Talk to you later.